Let's look at a discussion on gun control that I had a long time ago. Basically, the escalation idea that people talk about, obviously, amendment rights, and they say, hey, this is the old school fallacy of like, oh, the founding fathers didn't expect us to have machine guns and, whatever, assault weapons, right? Like, just in general, right? But I would say, okay, they didn't expect us to have automatic weapons at the civilian level, right? Or whatever, certain other things. But they also, because they were using muskets and this and that, but they also didn't expect the government to have nuclear weapons and jets and fighters and all this kind of thing and tanks and whatnot. So that's the escalation fallacy, is like what they had at the time. You might say, okay, that's why they said you have freedom to right to bear arms, but it's all relative. If the government has nukes and tanks and jets and we have muskets, that doesn't exactly work. So it's relative that, oh, now we should have, again, civilians level of freedom there should be increased just like the government has. So again, it's a technological situation where it's not a one-way street. You say, well, when it was written, we had worse technology, right? But so did the government. So what the civilian would have would be relatively, at least, again, not as good as what the government has. Just like what we would have still wouldn't be on par with the government, but it's more about the number of people, right? If there's 100 million people, or a mass majority that have, again, decent weapons, not the top level like what the government has, it's still more of a fighting chance or more of a fair match, instead of saying, okay, we should have something very primitive, very basic, like what people had in the old days, and then that makes it okay because that's when it was written. But again, it would go both ways then, right? They were looking at, okay, we have muskets, etc., lesser technology, but then the government also has that or slightly, better examples, but that's pretty much it. So in other words, it goes both ways. The government has nuclear bombs and this and that. So why shouldn't the civilian have something better than what obviously people have had in the past?